All right, everyone. Today we're diving into a really critical, but maybe not so well-known period in the history of Manipur. We're talking about a story of invasion, of exile, and an incredible fight for survival that honestly shaped the region for centuries to come.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get a handle on what Chahi Taret Khuntakpa actually is. Then, we'll look at how the kingdom fell, the unlikely alliance that turned the tables, and the tough road to liberation. And finally, we'll connect it all to today and see why this history is so important right now.
Okay, so let's jump right in. To really get what's going on, we have to start with the name itself, the name given to this really dark chapter in Manipur's history. That term is Chahi Taret Khuntakpa, and what it means is pretty stark. It literally translates to the 7 Years Devastation. It's talking about a brutal 7-year stretch when the Burmese Empire occupied the kingdom of Manipur. Just imagine, a time of incredible suffering and total chaos.
So, now that we know what it's called, let's get into the event that kicked this whole devastating period off, the invasion itself.
This timeline gives us a really simple roadmap. It all kicks off in 1819 with the invasion. Then, in 1824, the whole game changes when a bigger war starts. And it all wraps up in 1826 with a major treaty.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1819, and the huge Burmese army, led by this powerful general Mingyamala Bandula, just sweeps into the kingdom of Manipur. And we're not talking about a small border dispute here. This was a massive, full-scale invasion that was about to completely shatter the kingdom.
The fallout was, well, it was immediate and catastrophic. The king, Maharaja Marjit Singh, was completely overthrown. He and thousands of his people had no choice but to flee for their lives, becoming refugees in Cachar, a neighboring region. Just like that, the kingdom as they knew it was gone.
So, when your kingdom has basically been wiped off the map, how do you even begin to come back from that? Well, this brings us to a huge geopolitical turning point and a really critical alliance. So, 5 years into this brutal occupation, something else happens in 1824. A much bigger conflict explodes, the First Anglo-Burmese War, and all of a sudden the power dynamics in the whole region just shift. The Burmese Empire is now fighting the British, and this creates a totally unexpected window of opportunity for the exiled Manipuri leaders.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. You have this perfect alignment of goals. On one side, you've got the Manipuri prince, Gambhir Singh. His one and only goal, free his homeland. On the other side, you've got the British, and they need local allies to help them fight their new enemy, the Burmese. It's the absolute definition of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Okay, so you've got this strategic handshake, this alliance on paper. But how do you turn that into an actual victory on the ground? That brings us to the path to liberation. And really, it boils down to these 3 steps. It seems simple, but it was incredibly hard. First, the alliance becomes official. Second, they launch a joint military campaign to start taking back Manipuri land. And third, step by step, the combined forces succeed in pushing the Burmese army out of Manipur.
Now that bigger war, the one between the British and the Burmese, it officially wraps up in 1826 with the signing of the Treaty of Yondabo. And this treaty basically redrew the map of the whole area.
And here is the absolute key for our story. A major part of that treaty was the recognition of Manipur's sovereignty. Gambhir Singh was officially restored as the king, and just like that, the 7 Years Devastation was finally, officially over. The kingdom was reborn.
So that's the history. But you might be wondering, why are we talking about a conflict from almost 200 years ago today? Well, it's because there's a huge new effort to make sure this story is never, ever forgotten.
A brand new historical documentary just came out, and it's called, you guessed it, Chahi Taret Khuntakpa. It's directed by a very well-known filmmaker, Romy Meti, and its entire mission is to bring this piece of history to a whole new generation.
And this was no small project. Get this. It took 3 full years to finish this film. That just tells you the kind of dedication it takes to get this history right.
And this quote from Manipur's Chief Minister N. Biren Singh really drives home why this is so important today. He's saying that knowing this history, this legacy, is absolutely essential to preserving the culture and identity of the Manipuri people.
And the story isn't going to stop here. The documentary is set to air on the History Channel, and there are already plans in the works to turn it into a full-length feature film for theaters. So this incredible story of resilience is about to reach an even bigger audience.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on.
When a defining part of your nation's history is a story of such trauma and survival, what's the most powerful way to tell that story? How do you make sure the lessons are learned and that the sacrifices are never, ever forgotten?